Great New York Subway Map by Emilio Ponzi. Massimo Vignelli was a designer. He made all kinds of things. It's easy to forget that everything made by humans has been designed, which means someone has thought about how a thing works and what it should look like. To Massimo, there wasn't much difference between designing a city or a spoon. No matter what he was designing, he thought about what he was making, how people would use it, and why. His specialty was graphic design, which means he took colors, pictures, and words and arranged them so they were easy to understand. Graphic designers make books, magazines, diagrams, signs, logos, and many other things. Massimo's name comes from the Latin meaning Maximus, which means the greatest. He was born in Milan, a city in Italy. As a boy, he used to travel through the city with his eyes toward the sky, looking at the forms and shapes made by the outlines of buildings. In 1965, he moved to New York City. He started a design company there with 5 friends. Massimo and his friends felt that a design should contain only the most important things, without too much decoration or busyness. They wanted to make things using very simple shapes that everyone would recognize, making order out of chaos. If you designed something the right way, they thought it would last forever. They called this way of seeing the world minimalism, and it was an idea also being used at the time by artists and musicians. When Massimo's designs left his hands, they took on lives of their own. On the tails of airplanes, in the windows of stores, and on the fronts of cars. One day, a call came from the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. We'd like you to come up with a new design for New York subway map. This would be the most difficult project the designers had ever done. The old maps were complicated and confusing. People couldn't tell how to change trains or get from one place to another. It was a frustrating mess. Massimo wondered where to start to solve this problem. He needed to take on what was complicated and make it simple, like untying a tricky sailor's knot. The subway was like a maze. Hundreds of subway stations, 18 subway lines, a million ways to get lost. Massimo decided to start from the beginning. Why did people take the subway? To get where they needed to go? With his team, he studied the people who came and went. They walked around station after station and took the trains uptown, downtown, and crosstown. They observed faces, hats, kids wearing funky clothes, garbage, newspapers, advertisements, folks walking, standing, reading, waiting, rushing, idling, shoving, sleeping. All that information buzzed around in Massimo's head. Colors, shapes, movement. He tried to see it from a new perspective. The subway lines were like snakes that had to be tamed inside the rectangle of a map. So much information, so little space. The team spent many days and nights at the studio, drawing and redrawing. They were exhausted. Massimo felt homesick for Italy, especially the food. That was it. Spaghetti! The subway lines would be strands of multicolored spaghetti running straight lines and making sharp turns, going horizontally, vertically, and diagonally. They would meet up and cross over and stretch away on their own. The land, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx would be shown in white. The Hudson River, the East River, and the Atlantic Ocean would be brown. The map was going to be simple. and there wouldn't be too much writing on it. It would only show what was necessary. All those extra noise would disappear. Streets and landmarks were tossed out. Staten Island was dumped. Central Park was squashed. You don't need a lot of information, Massimo decided. Only what would help people figure out how to get where they were going. The designers went back and forth from the studio to the MTA, from the MTA back to the studio. They argued about where the stations should be placed on a map. The stops were small black dots that jumped like fleas. Let's move this stop more to the right, Massimo, and move that one to the left. They're too far apart. Each subway line had a different color. The line 1 was orange. The A line was blue. The green line was light green. The designers decided to use a clean, easy-to-read typeface for the letters and numbers. A typeface is a way the letters look and something that is designed, too. They smoothed and redrew the C and the E, curved the uppercase R. They adjusted the spaces in between the letters. The letters felt like music, and the empty spaces like pauses. Two years after the project began, the map was finished. There were posters in all the stations and a pocket-sized version for passengers to carry. Now people would always know where they were going. Massimo Vignelli was a designer. He designed useful things.